Tarantino Universe. Brad Pitt's characters across Quentin Tarantino films might be connected through an elaborate family tree. The theory proposes that Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could be the son of Aldo Raine from Inglourious Basterds. In Inglourious Basterds, set in 1944, Aldo Raine leads a group of soldiers fighting Nazis in occupied France. 25 years later, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Cliff Booth works as a stuntman in 1969 Los Angeles. Supporters point to both characters exhibiting exceptional combat skills and a similar no-nonsense attitude toward violence. The timeline works perfectly for a father-son relationship, with Raine potentially having a child shortly after World War II ended. Additionally, when Raine goes undercover in the film, he poses as an Italian stuntman named Enzo Gorlami, suggesting familiarity with stunt work. Tarantino has openly discussed connecting his films in a shared universe, mentioning that some characters exist in a realer-than-real universe, while others exist in a movie universe. While he's never explicitly confirmed this family connection, he's also never denied it, leaving the door open for fans to piece together these relationships. The possibility remains strong because Tarantino deliberately plants Easter eggs and connections throughout his filmography for audiences to discover. Marla's reality. In Fight Club, Marla Singer might also be a creation of the narrator's fractured mind, rather than a real person. While the film confirms Tyler Durden as the narrator's alter ego, some theorists argue Marla serves as another personality representing femininity and vulnerability. Evidence includes her appearing only when the narrator is alone, and never interacting with other support group members in meaningful ways. When the narrator and Tyler both claim to be sleeping with her, it could represent internal conflict rather than an actual triangle. The theory points to scenes where Marla seems to know things about the narrator's life she shouldn't, suggesting she's part of his psyche. Her sudden appearances and disappearances mirror Tyler's behavior. During the final confrontation, Marla arrives at the exact moment Tyler vanishes, potentially indicating they cannot exist simultaneously. Supporters note the film's exploration of dissociative identity disorder could extend beyond just Tyler. Director David Fincher includes ambiguous moments where Marla's reality is never definitively established to outside observers. The phone conversations could be the narrator talking to himself. The possibility exists because the film deliberately uses an unreliable narrator and never shows definitive proof of Marla's existence to anyone except the narrator, leaving room for this deeper layer of psychological fracture. Achilles lives. The ending of Troy might suggest Achilles actually survived the arrow attack and faked his death. The 2004 film shows Achilles struck by multiple arrows, including the famous heel shot, then his funeral pyre. However, theorists point to inconsistencies suggesting he escaped. The funeral scene never clearly shows his face on the pyre, only a wrapped body. Paris, who supposedly witnessed the death, has motivation to lie, since Achilles killed his brother Hector. Evidence includes Achilles being shown as nearly superhuman throughout the film, surviving injuries that would kill normal men. The theory argues he planned his exit from the war, achieving the glory he sought, while escaping the prophecy of dying at Troy. His final conversation with Perseus includes cryptic statements about finding peace. The chaos of Troy's fall would provide perfect cover for disappearing. Supporters note the film removes divine intervention from the original myth, suggesting human agency in all events, including Achilles' fate. Ancient Greek history contains accounts of warriors faking death to escape wars. The possibility remains, because the film deliberately shows the funeral from a distance and never provides close verification of the body, while establishing Achilles as strategic enough to orchestrate such deception, if it meant achieving immortal glory without actually dying. Benedict's setup. Terry Benedict in Ocean's 11 might have known about the heist from the beginning and allowed it to happen. The 2001 film presents Benedict as the victim of Danny Ocean's elaborate theft. However, theorists argue his security is too sophisticated to be fooled so easily, suggesting he permitted the robbery for his own purposes. Evidence includes Benedict's camera system recording everything, giving him leverage over Ocean's crew forever. His relationship with Tess appears strained before the heist, and losing her to Danny might have been acceptable if it meant gaining control over 11 skilled criminals. The theory proposes Benedict wanted insurance and blackmail material on the crew. His seemingly easy defeat contradicts his reputation as a ruthless casino owner. After the heist, he has legal grounds to pursue them indefinitely, while they cannot report his retaliation. The sequel, Ocean's 12, shows Benedict tracking them down and forcing them into another job, suggesting a longer game. Supporters point to Benedict's calm demeanor throughout, never showing real panic even as his vault is robbed. His security chief's incompetence seems orchestrated. The possibility exists because the film establishes Benedict as supremely intelligent and calculating, making his apparent blindness to the heist suspicious unless it served a larger strategy of gaining permanent leverage over a talented criminal crew. Cole's loop. James Cole in 12 Monkeys might be trapped in an infinite time loop, reliving the same events repeatedly. The 1995 film shows Cole's mission to stop the plague, but theorists suggest he's experienced this timeline countless times before. Evidence includes his recurring dreams that are actually memories from previous loops. The homeless man who recognizes Cole and calls him Bob might remember him from earlier iterations. Cole's sense of déjà vu throughout the film could be genuine recollection. The voice that follows him through time might be his own consciousness trying to break the cycle. The theory proposes the scientists send him back repeatedly, each time hoping for a different outcome, but achieving the same result. His attraction to Dr. Rayleigh could be based on previous relationships across multiple timelines. The film's emphasis on circular imagery and its nonlinear structure support this interpretation. Supporting this, Cole's final moments show him understanding what's about to happen, suggesting foreknowledge rather than just prophecy. The young Cole witnessing adult Cole's death creates a perfect loop. The possibility remains because the film deliberately presents time as immutable and cyclical, with the ending suggesting Cole's journey will repeat as the young boy grows up to become the man sent back in time. Linda's awareness. In Burn After Reading, Linda Litsky might be far more intelligent than she appears, deliberately manipulating events. The 2008 film presents Linda as a naive gym employee who stumbles into espionage. However, theorists argue she orchestrates everything from the beginning. Evidence includes her immediate recognition of the disk's value despite claiming ignorance about CIA operations. She controls Chad's actions throughout, always positioning herself safely away from danger. When Chad dies, she shows little genuine grief, immediately focusing on her cosmetic surgery goals. The theory proposes Linda found the disc intentionally and crafted the entire scheme, using Chad as expendable cover. Her dating Harry Farrer, a federal marshal, seems too coincidental unless deliberately arranged. She's the only character who achieves her goals, getting the CIA to pay for her surgeries. Supporters point to her manipulation of every man in the film while maintaining an innocent facade. Her final scene shows satisfaction rather than trauma. The Coen brothers frequently feature characters who hide intelligence behind apparent stupidity. The possibility exists because the film never definitively shows Linda's internal thoughts, and her perfect outcome amid universal disaster suggests either impossible luck or careful planning masked by her performance of shallow vanity. By the way, if this is your kind of content, I post videos like this all the time. Subscribing would really help me out. Somerset's test. Detective Somerset in Seven might have been John Doe's former student or protege before the murders began. The 1995 thriller presents Somerset as simply hunting an unknown killer. However, theorists suggest a prior relationship explains Doe's fixation. Evidence includes the library scene revealing Doe studied the exact same philosophical texts Somerset references. Doe's knowledge of Somerset's retirement plans and personal life exceeds what surveillance alone could provide. The theory proposes Doe and Somerset met years earlier, possibly in an academic setting, where Somerset's cynical worldview influenced young Doe. Their conversations throughout the interrogation show familiarity beyond detective and suspect. Doe specifically chose to work in Somerset's jurisdiction despite planning for years. The Seven Deadly Sins framework mirrors themes Somerset discusses throughout the film. Supporters note Somerset's unusual depth of knowledge about literature and philosophy for a detective suggests a past beyond police work. His library contacts and sophisticated analytical methods indicate previous academic involvement. The murders are designed to force Somerset to stay rather than retire, suggesting personal investment in keeping him engaged. The possibility remains because the film never explains Somerset's background or how Doe gained such intimate knowledge of him, leaving room for a shared history that would explain Doe's elaborate plan to make Somerset witness his masterpiece. Reverse timeline. The storylines in Babel might actually occur in reverse chronological order, rather than simultaneously. The 2006 film presents 4 interconnected stories supposedly happening at the same time, across different time zones. However, theorists argue the Japanese storyline occurs last, the Moroccan story second, and the Mexican storyline first, with American events connecting them. Evidence includes subtle visual and dialogue clues, suggesting seasonal differences that don't align with simultaneous action. The rifle's journey makes more chronological sense in reverse, explaining how it reached each location. Communication technology shown in different storylines reflects different time periods when examined closely. The theory proposes director Alejandro González Iñárritu deliberately obscured the timeline to create false simultaneity. Chieco's grief appears more processed than immediate trauma, suggesting time has passed since her mother's death. The American couple's relationship problems seem to be the result of previous tragedies rather than just the shooting. Supporters point to Iñárritu's use of non-linear storytelling in other films and his interest in how trauma echoes across time. The thematic focus on miscommunication could extend to audience misdirection about when events occur. The possibility exists because the film never provides definitive timestamps and deliberately uses editing to suggest simultaneity while leaving enough ambiguity in visual details to support an alternative chronology. Daisy's creation. In the curious case of Benjamin Button, Daisy might exist only in elderly Benjamin's deteriorating mind as he regresses toward infancy. The 2008 film frames the story through Daisy reading Benjamin's diary, but theorists suggest she's narrating his delusions. Evidence includes the fantastical nature of Benjamin's condition having no medical explanation presented. The framing device shows Daisy in the hospital during Hurricane Katrina, but the entire flashback could be Benjamin's confused memories. Events in his life align too perfectly, with every person appearing exactly when narratively convenient. The theory proposes Benjamin is an ordinary elderly man with dementia, and his backwards aging life is how his degrading mind reinterprets his normal lifetime. Daisy represents an idealized love he imagined or lost. The magical realism elements like the hummingbird and the backwards clock suggest subjective rather than objective reality. Director David Fincher's interest in unreliable narration supports this reading. The film never shows outside verification of Benjamin's condition beyond what he experiences. Supporting this interpretation, the story's emphasis on memory and its unreliability could extend to the entire narrative. The possibility remains because the film deliberately uses dreamlike cinematography and never grounds Benjamin's condition in verifiable medical science, leaving room for interpretation that his extraordinary life exists only in his fading consciousness. Training exercise. The entire conflict in Mr. and Mrs. Smith might be a marriage counseling exercise orchestrated by both agencies. The 2005 film presents deadly combat between husband and wife assassins. However, theorists argue the violence is elaborate theater designed to repair their failing marriage. Evidence includes neither John nor Jane actually dying, despite hundreds of bullets fired at close range. Their handlers seem unconcerned about the damage and deaths around them. The theory proposes both agencies recognize their operatives' marriage problems threaten their covers and effectiveness. The escalating confrontation forces them to communicate honestly for the first time. Every supposedly lethal trap fails in ways that push them together rather than apart. Supporting this, the final shootout against both agencies shows perfect teamwork, suggesting the conflict rebuilt their partnership. The couple's therapy session at the beginning and end frames the entire film, hinting everything between might be therapeutic intervention. Agencies with resources shown in the film could stage elaborate scenarios. The neighbor's suspiciously perfect ignorance of the chaos suggests broader management of the situation. The possibility exists because the film's exaggerated action defies physics in ways that suggest staged performance, and both agencies gain more from rehabilitated operatives than dead ones, making an intervention more logical than actual assassination attempts. Bricktop's test. In Snatch, Bricktop might be Mickey's estranged father, testing him before offering inheritance. The 2000 film presents Bricktop as a psychotic crime lord and Mickey as an Irish traveler boxer. However, theorists note suspicious parallels suggesting hidden relationship. Evidence includes Bricktop's unusual interest in Mickey beyond simple boxing profits. He tolerates Mickey's defiance in ways he murders others for lesser offenses. The theory proposes Bricktop abandoned Mickey's mother years ago and tracks Mickey down after making his fortune. The elaborate scheme with the diamond and boxing serves as tests of Mickey's intelligence, loyalty, and survival skills. Mickey's mother's mysterious knowledge and warnings could reference Bricktop. Both characters demonstrate similar strategic thinking masked by apparent recklessness. Supporters point to Bricktop's monologues about family and legacy, seeming directed at Mickey specifically. The film's resolution allows Mickey to survive and profit, while Bricktop's empire falls, suggesting intentional passing of power. Director Guy Ritchie layers his films with hidden character connections. The possibility remains because the film never explains Bricktop's excessive investment in Mickey's story or why he doesn't simply kill him, and the age difference, timing, and character parallels align with a father testing an unacknowledged son. Patient Zero. Jerry Lane in World War Z might actually be patient zero, unknowingly spreading the virus while believing he's fighting it. The 2013 film shows Lane as a UN investigator trying to stop the zombie outbreak. However, a radical theory suggests he's the asymptomatic carrier who caused it. Evidence includes the virus spreading to exact locations Lane visits before he arrives. His family's survival, despite overwhelming odds, could indicate their immunity as carriers. The timeline of outbreaks aligns with his previous UN missions mentioned in the film. The theory proposes Lane contracted an earlier version of the pathogen during fieldwork, and his investigation actually tracks the spread he caused. His apparent immunity isn't immunity, but carrier status. The WHO scientists' unusual interest in Lane personally, rather than just his information, could reflect suspicion. Governments track him, not just for his expertise, but to monitor the source. Supporting this, the theatrical cut removed the original ending, possibly because it revealed Lane's role. His risky behavior throughout makes more sense if he subconsciously knows he cannot be infected because he already carries it. The possibility exists because the film never explains the outbreak's true origin or Lane's convenient immunity, and the heavily rewritten ending suggests major plot revelations were cut that might have supported this darker interpretation. Marianne's mission. In Allied, Marianne's mission might have been specifically to fall in love with Max and turn him into a double agent. The 2016 film presents Marianne as a German spy eventually discovered and killed. However, theorists argue her mission succeeded rather than failed. Evidence includes Marianne's obvious affection for Max appearing genuine, not merely cover. Her actions consistently protect him while maintaining her mission requirements. The theory proposes German intelligence wanted Max compromised emotionally, making him susceptible to future recruitment. Her death serves the longer goal of destroying his trust in British intelligence. His subsequent questioning by superiors would leave him vulnerable and bitter. Supporting this, Marianne's behavior before her death shows someone completing objectives rather than desperately trying to escape. The final phone test might have been her confirming Max's emotional compromise. Director Robert Zemeckis explores deception and trust throughout the film, suggesting layers beyond the surface betrayal. The possibility exists because Marianne's actions benefit German intelligence regardless of outcome. Her genuine love for Max could be weaponized more effectively than pure deception, and the film's ambiguous ending about Max's future service suggests lasting damage to his reliability as an Allied operative. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing so you never miss new content. Thanks for watching.